What's going on, guys? Alex here, and today I'm going to talk about Form 5498. Now, this is a tax form that confuses taxpayers more than a lot of other forms out there, and there are a few reasons for it, but we're going to demystify the form, find out why it confuses so many people, and make you guys experts at everything Form 5498. All right, so first of all, what are we even talking about? Now, if we look on the IRS website, great website, beautiful, I love it. You can see that they have information both in terms of the form itself and also the instructions for it. Now, the instructions for Form 1099-R and 5498 are combined. I'll explain why that is in a minute, but you'll see both of those lumped together in a single publication from the IRS that you can read to find out more information if you want. Now, let me take this link up here, throw it into the chat for you guys. So, taking a look at Form 5498, let's see what it even looks like. Now, if you believe the IRS, this is what 5498 looks like. Now, you can see it here has spaces for IRA contributions, rollover contributions, Roth IRA contributions, fair market values of accounts, all sorts of checkboxes for IRA, SEP, Simples, Roth accounts, what have you, other contributions, transfers, and things of that nature. So, in very general terms, 5498 deals in general with contributions and transfers to and from retirement accounts. Okay, so retirement accounts can include IRAs, which stands for individual retirement account, can include simple IRAs, 401k accounts, and things of that nature. Now, again, to get specific, you really have to delve into the instructions, but in a very general sense, that's what it's capturing. The movement being contributions and transfers between retirement accounts, specifically IRAs, but also others are included as well. Now, the reason that it's combined with the 1099-R in terms of the instructions is that the 1099-R generally focuses on distributions from retirement accounts, right? So if you have contributions or transfers between retirement accounts, you're thinking of a 5498. If you have distributions from retirement accounts, you're looking at 1099-R. And that's why these two forms kind of work together, because if you have contributions to retirement accounts, then you take some funds out. If you have RMD distributions and things of that nature, generally 1099-R and 5498 are going to work together. But 5498 focuses generally on contributions and transfers to and from retirement accounts, mostly IRAs, but also others are included as well. So that's the idea behind the form. If you believe the IRS, this is what it looks like. But in reality, these can look a little bit different. I pulled up some samples for you guys so you could see how these things can actually look like in the wild. And you could see here that this is a sample from Fidelity. It's a little bit different, but you'll see it's still Form 5498, and it has information about retirement accounts. And let's take a look. We have contributions, rollover contributions, Roth conversion amounts, recharacterizations. That has changed since 2008, which this is the template for, but it's there at the moment. Fair market value of accounts, IRA types, and so forth. So a lot of the similar information that we see on this IRS template blank form, but you're more typically going to see this sort of presentation in terms of different retirement accounts, their balances, fair market values, and so forth. And you can see here on the sample, they're disclosing traditional IRA accounts and reporting amounts that are applicable to that specific account. So that's one example of Form 5498. Another example, it can also look like this. All right, so a little bit different, but has generally the same information. So if you have a multitude of IRA accounts, you may see it reported in this fashion, but very generally, it's the same information. Now, I mentioned at the start of this video that a lot of people get thrown off and confused by Form 5498, in particular, more than other tax forms, because if you think about it, if you're an employee and you get Form W-2, you typically see it in the first part of the year, in January, February, you see that Form W-2 come through, right? Same with interest statements, 1099 INT, 1099 DIV, 1099B, all those things are coming through, but you don't see a Form 5498. So April 15th rolls around, it's time to file your tax returns. You still don't have a 5498 to look at. And most taxpayers, that's why they're thrown off, in that it's not one of the forms that's sent to you before you file your tax return. And you're thinking, how am I supposed to account for this crazy form if I don't receive it before I file my tax return. Here's the story there. If we look on IRS publication 1220, we see that the deadline for the issuance of Form 5498, or the electronic filing more specifically, is May 31st. But then you're thinking, Alex, I know enough about taxes to know that the filing deadline is April 15th. So how in the world can you get a form by May 31st and apply it to your taxes? Well, there's a reason to the madness. The reason being that if Form 5498 has to record your contributions to an IRA account, and you have until April 15th to make a contribution to your IRA account if you're not extending your returns, and COVID isn't taking over the world and all the other things, in general terms, you have till April 15th, then it's impossible for these custodians to report that contribution that you made on April 15th on Form 5498 to be issued by that date, right? They need a little bit of time to put all this stuff together, get it mailed out, so on and so forth. That's why this form throws so many people off, is because they don't get it before they file their returns. They file their returns by April 15th. They celebrate. They're smoking cigars. They're drinking wine, whiskey, all that other stuff. And then they get another tax form. So some people freak out and say, oh my God, I got to amend my taxes. I forgot this form. And typically that's not the case, because if you reported everything correctly up until the filing date, meaning any contributions, rollovers, and so forth, the 5498 really shouldn't have anything that hasn't been addressed on your return. Now, if it does, it is potential that you have to go back and make some changes. But if it reflects information that's already been shown on your tax return that you filed by April 15th, then you should be all good. You could just use the 5498 as an informational document, put it in your records, and forget about it for the most part. But review it to make sure that it's accurate and there's nothing on there that is a surprise that you didn't see when you filed your return or didn't take into account. So that's why 5498 confuses a lot of people. It's a form that comes after the due date of your tax returns, but it can also have implications therein. So if you do receive one, check it over, look at it, make sure that it's nothing there that's a surprise. Now, in terms of the application of the form itself, let's see what this actually has if we look at the detail. Now, it reports IRA contributions right here in box 1. All right? And this is interesting because if we think about the deadlines for IRA contributions, you may know that you have until, let's say, April 15th, if you don't extend your tax returns, to make an IRA contribution. Okay? Well, if you made that contribution in April of 2020, does that count for 2019? Does that count for 2020? Similarly, if you look at 5498, what's the deal? Here's an important thing to take into account about 5498, and this is particularly confusing to a lot of people. I made this little diagram here, and you can see that this is calendar year 2020. All right, so we have January, February, all the way till December. Right now it's June 15th, so we're right here. Okay? Now, in terms of contributions for tax year 2019, we know that we have until the original deadline of the tax return to make that contribution. So from January till April, you could still make contributions for tax year 2019 here in 2020. All right? At the same time, you can also make contributions and transfers for tax year 2020 as well in the same time period. So there's an overlap to where if you are considering things on a calendar year basis, there may be some 2019 information on there, maybe some 2020 information on there. It's probably a little bit of both given this overlap. And the 5498 is reported on a calendar year basis. That's extremely important to understand, and this is what throws a lot of people off. So take that into account. Just keep in mind that there is an overlap on 5498 since it uses the calendar year basis, but contributions for IRA accounts don't necessarily correspond to the calendar year. And that's why this 5498 throws a lot of people off, because it could have some contributions from 2019, some transfers from 2020, all lumped into the same form, and that's not how they're going to be reported on the tax return. So the most crucial thing you could take away from this is the 5498 is on the calendar year basis, whereas the tax returns don't necessarily follow the calendar year for everything. One of the examples is that you can make IRA contributions up until the deadline of the tax return that you're filing. So that's the distinction there. So the calendar year situation, that confuses people. The fact that the 5498 shows up after April 15th, that confuses people. And the fact that it can have information for 2 tax years associated with it, that's the third thing that confounds people. So hopefully this helps to clarify some of the mystery around this form. It's really not all that scary. In most situations, if my clients receive that 5498 after the deadline of the tax return, we take a look at it, we confirm that it's all good, and usually there's no issue. Sometimes, though, we do find that there's something on the 5498 that we didn't see before, and it's like, hey, let's dig in a little more, find out what the issue is, and see if we can possibly amend the return to properly reflect whatever transpired. Sometimes that's necessary, sometimes that's not, depending on your circumstances. So that is the 5498 in a nutshell. If you like this video, if you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon so you're notified of future videos, because there will be more. And any other questions, hit me up. I'll be happy to help. Hopefully this was helpful. Thanks for watching.